Thanks for joining me for this Q&A series, and if you've got a question you'd like me to answer, please pop it in the comments below. This first question is from Clare, and she says, when I notice my mood change, I can't help questioning why. It's like picking a scab. I know I shouldn't do it, but before I know it, I'm running through all my problems, past, present and future. What should I do? With this one, it sounds like you've become nervous of how you're feeling. And it's almost like you've started to body scan subconsciously and notice how your body feels. And as soon as it doesn't feel quite right, it's like you're hypersensitive to it. And it sets off this reaction where you start questioning yourself. You know, why am I feeling like this? Am I not feeling good? What's wrong? Once you get into those questions, suddenly you're dragging your mood down further because you're thinking of any potential problems and you're worrying about this feeling as well. So it changes how your body feels and gets you into a vicious cycle. Actually, you don't need to be paying such close attention to how you're feeling. Your body's amazing. It's doing all these things all of the time. You don't need to be checking in on it. And with something like this, when we start to create a story around a feeling, actually, you extend the life cycle of that feeling so it lasts much longer than it naturally would. We all have ups and downs. And when you begin to zoom out a bit from the feeling, it lets you see that actually it just passes by. So a big thing, if you're someone who really notices how you feel physically, is almost just to acknowledge it and name the feeling. But like if you're watching a parade, you just want to let that parade go on past you, just like the feeling or the thought that's in your mind. The more you can zoom out from your feelings and zoom out from the natural changes that we get from the general ups and downs of life, the better you'll feel and the less your brain will then react. And the better you get at externalizing it and seeing it as something you don't need to get into, the less you'll start to pick up on those things and you'll start to tune out from your body a bit more, and it will let you get on more with life. So this next question is from Jonny, and he says, my manager thinks I'm doing well at work, but I feel like I've got no idea what I'm doing and that I'm a fraud. With this one, it sounds like you're suffering from imposter syndrome. And actually, it's so common, it affects about 70% of people. So often we compare how we're feeling on the inside with what we see of other people's outsides, and we forget that we only know what's going through our own heads. The reality is that no one's really got it together. You know, I vividly remember when I was writing The Imposter Cure, going in to speak to Octopus, my publisher, and speaking to my editor, Kate, about the book. And at one point I felt like I was hovering overhead looking down on it. I was just thinking, I've got no idea how I've convinced them that I know what I'm doing. Actually, it wasn't until I wrote The Imposter Cure that I realised, actually, just because you feel a certain way doesn't make that the truth of what's going on. And that's the thing about imposter syndrome. Actually, you've really got to update your beliefs about yourself and see what you're capable of and really take on board all the good stuff you're doing. So when it comes to your work, actually, if your boss says you're doing well, then it's really noting that down and seeing what they think you're doing well on. And for some people in my clinic, actually, I get them to do a CV of all their achievements and to write down all the things they've done, whether it's personal or professional. As when you see it there in black and white, you actually have a chance to take it in. And then you update that belief so it's not based on a feeling anymore, but on the facts of what you're doing and the reality of your life now. This next question is from George, and they say, I'm beginning to really hate social situations. Whenever I go out with a group of people, I end up dreading it. I can't stop the paranoid thoughts and then the post-mortems afterwards. And then when I'm there, it makes it so difficult to enjoy it. What can I do? I think social anxiety can be so awful because actually when you're out with a group of people, it might be something you're really looking forward to, but then when you're there, it makes it so difficult to enjoy. And what people often say to me is, when they're in the situation, it's like they're not really there at all. They're so stuck in their head, going over everything and worrying about what to say next or how they're coming across. It makes it so difficult then to be engaged in what's being said and to kind of feel part of things. If you imagined if I was stood next to you, talking to you, saying all the horrible things you might say to yourself, it's no wonder then it's difficult to chat naturally or to kind of feel like you're part of things. I think one of the big things with this is recognising that the scrutiny we put ourselves under is so much greater than the scrutiny we put on anyone else. And I always think when you used to print off photos, it's so clear when you're looking through a pack of photos, you get to the one of yourself and you suddenly pause and look at it more intently. It's kind of like that with everything that we do. We look at what we've done in a totally different way to how we look at other people. And I think just knowing that is really helpful to try and overcome, that commentary and being stuck in your head when you're trying to be in with what's going on. What you can do is just try and really concentrate on what's being said and really listen to what's going on around you as a way to try and shut down that internal commentary. And then when you're listening to what's being said, you can respond more easily. And it's easier just to kind of say something in response rather than having this list of things that you're planning to try and jam into the conversation. Something else that I think is really helpful to know is that actually, if you're really confident, it's not like you don't go home after a social situation sometimes and sit there and kind of cringe over some of the things you said. The big thing is just to try and think about it less. And I know that's easier said than done, but it's almost saying, yeah, sometimes I might say the wrong thing, but chances are no one's picked up on it. And just like that confident person, when they get home, they'll cringe over it, but it won't be played on repeat or in postmortems for the rest of their day. And almost the less you think about it and the less you think about yourself, the easier it becomes. If you've got a question, pop it in the comments below.